We live? Hello. That'd be funny if we are. I think we are. Are we? I should pull it up. We are. What's up, everybody? Well, sorry. Wow. Great entrance. Welcome back to Hxro Labs Live. Oh, yeah. Check the chat. My bad. Yeah, I know. My bad. I'm like talking to the producer. He's like, yeah, I can't talk to you right now. I am in the green room. No sound. Fuck off, David Barrett. Welcome, dude. Good to have you in the chat, guys. Sorry for the late show. I got stuck in traffic. I left the house. I left the office for the first time in a while. Forgot that there's traffic. So that's a thing. But it's good. I had a really good lunch meeting and with the guy who I pay to tell me about macroeconomics and, manage our estate and whatnot, keep me out of trouble. And yeah, he had some pretty good things to say as far as like, rate, like nothing we haven't heard before in a sense, but I think just without the hyperbole in there, rates likely coming into their peak, agreeing with me that often historically on the S&P and things like that, you see kind of a big dump at the pivot. So you think, oh, like pivot's good. That means a number go up. It's like, nah, probably numbers shake out for a bit. And then, but in agreement with the mid-long-term outlook of just like resume up only at some point, which was refreshing to hear from someone who makes a living off learning, knowing about that shit. So going to dive into October, Q4, what we see coming, what I expect. You're not going to love it if your number go up right now kind of guy, because I'm feeling pretty bearish on the market, not just because it went down a little today, but because I just don't see how we get out of this market without some more pain. You think that we're going to get out of this bear market without some extreme fear? I don't think so. We're in fear now. We're leaking down. If we crank it up to max, well, we had some fear and greed 41 back early September, but yeah, I just think we're coming into the reload zone on fear. Let's take a look at what the market looks like. Yeah, actually we could stay on this chart. Let's go to the daily though. So like looking back at the year, it's been a crazy year. And we had the FTX capitulation pretty marked on there. I think that's probably the low for the cycle. I don't think that's a major aha moment for anybody. That's kind of the assumption a lot of people are operating under. And just because a lot of people think that, I don't think that's a reason to fade that idea, for the record. I think a lot of people say things like that. Like, everyone thinks that's going to happen, so it's not. It probably is. Probably is the low for the cycle. I'm going to operate under that assumption because if I don't, then we do visit, whatever that looks like, sweeping this, which to me would be like the end move would probably be to take out that low, maybe retest this Wyckoff. If we do something like that and I'm not set in stone with my understanding that this is the low, like I can't say 100%, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that it is. And, and I'll eat some shit if I'm wrong and suck it up and move on. But if I don't put that in my head now, then like I'm going to be just too scared as we approach. Because if we get into this reload zone, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of noise about, oh, those wasn't the lows. And there's some, I've already seen some like Wyckoff models that are just like, this is like an A, B, and then we have to go C lower. Like I just don't buy it. I think the story about us going to break the FTX lows is the reason why people will just not buy the dip that I'm waiting on. There's no reason to say we have to break this $25,000 level that is stuck, holding us support for now. I would say there's an 80% chance that we do, though. It's just the way it goes. Just gotta have a little more fear, a little more pain. Lots. I'd say we ran out of sellers here. Clearly, numbers stopped going down. We had a pretty strong year, and I think we got a lot of the tourists back, people that had been shaken out through this. Most of them probably selling down here. Most of them FOMOing back in sometime through this. You can feel it. There's just a lot of people in the market that are concerned, scared, annoyed, angry. They're still here. They got to go. They got to go flat. And that's like a high level take. But from a technical perspective, there's tons of reasons to think that this shitty part of the cycle doesn't end without some more of that. Now, does there have to be a narrative that nukes us into that? We've talked a lot on the show about what they could be, whether it's somehow relating to Binance, whether it's somehow relating to the FTX case that's starting soon. Sam Bankman-Fried's case will be pretty negative press. Sentiment, I'm sure, will not be high through something like that, the headlines and stuff. Could it be a ETF rejection sometime through the spring? Everyone goes, oh man, Bitcoin can't go up without an ETF, forgetting that it has only ever gone up, and it has only ever gone up without a Bitcoin ETF in the United States. So I don't think that'd be a reason for it to not have another bull cycle, but it certainly would be a reason for everyone to sell their bags. So whatever that is, or is it something that we can't even imagine? You know, Brian Beamish talked about the idea that it's like could be a fucking small or sizable, whatever kind of nuke in Russia, the Russia conflict. It could be just a black swan, something that is not really expected. I don't even know if the nuke would be a black swan. I mean, I guess technically it's a pretty big fucking deal, but there's a lot of people already worried about it. Typically black swans by definition are things that you're just like, it wasn't even on my radar. So I'm still operating under the assumption that we visit this 8-to-1 at some point. As painful as that looks, as unlikely as it feels, that's kind of my base set. Now, the nice thing about that, it's not like if I don't get that, I won't be in on the whole next bull run, right? There'll be new setups, different setups higher up. So I'd say if we're having an October that's going to be fun, equities suggest we will not, but I think best case is like high or low, or low or high. And that would set up what I've already kind of semi-drawn out here, which is this head and shoulders that a lot of people are watching that could bring us into the end game for this bear market, which would be dope, the end game part. The fact that it will and must, in theory, end, and we're getting closer than ever to that. So I think if we do rally up here, which I'd like to see, and I would be semi-positioned for, as we are now, that's what that would be. And then measured move aligns with all these things. Cost of production is ticking up over time, and that's going to be down in that area too, which is the best place to buy commodities, which Bitcoin is. So yeah, those are my high time frame thoughts. So what to expect through Q4? Look, if we hold these lows, risking against them is cool. I think we could get some upside there. Mike Novogratz talking the other day about, we're going to get good news in October, and whether he was referring to the Ethereum futures ETF, whether he was referring to the Bitcoin spot ETF, we'll never know. However, he seemed pretty confident that we'll have good news in October. Now, I really hope that whatever we get in October isn't like the big spot Bitcoin ETF, and then we fail and do that head and shoulders thing. It's not the end of the world. It would suck to waste that slug and not break into this. Because, and here's the chart I want to pull up that I put out the other day on Twitter. I think this is an interesting view. Of course, we here on the channel, and myself very much included in that, I don't plan to make it, to make the big returns trading Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin in cycle lows and selling it in cycle highs. Like, that's really cool. You make a lot of money doing that cycle to cycle, but I'm here for the shitcoins. I'm here for the 100Xs. I'm here for the big juice. However, the market is still led by Bitcoin. The liquidity cycles are still led by Bitcoin. And to get that juice that I'm here for, that we are all here for, we really want to see Bitcoin lead the charge. It always has. So until future notice, it always should and probably always will. So from this point of view, these are all the buy signals on the hash ribbons. Through the last bear market, we got one right in the bottom trough. We got one right around what would be the equivalent to this January. Then we had our spring final shakeout COVID crash. We got one on the recovery. We got one after about 2 months of straight nothingness. And then we got another one just about heading into price discovery. So 5 in total from the lows until we made new highs. For comparison's sake, we had one just coming out of this trough, fired on the breakout. We had one right up against the highs here. and we don't have any capitulation right now in miners. In fact, they're not even, inverted yet. So there's no sign that we're going to get one anytime soon, but I would expect at least one more in this range before we do anything too spicy. But as you can see here, as you can see from the way I've got this drawn, I think the real signal, so this is really where it comes down to how you want to play this. Because I am in 62 to 65% cash right now, my primary deployment will likely be into Bitcoin. As a starting point for whatever comes next. And then, I'll look through some alts and try to get a short list. And yes, I want to build positions in those. And yes, they will probably outperform. But if everything goes the way I expect it to, I think there's a pretty good chance Bitcoin leads dominance-wise for a little while from coming out of this. And so it's about looking at it like, do I take this kind of reload zone stuff, which aligns really well with like the low 20s, high teens? Typically where I'm looking. It's kind of like this area right here, same kind of thing, cost of production, all that. Or rather I should say, and also absolutely loading up if and when we break above here. I think when you're trading back above there, it's like, hey, we're in a new bull market. And so buying this dip down here is more speculative. It's higher risk. You get a higher reward as a result, because you're anticipating the reverse from that and not to go lower. So I'm pretty bullish anything above like the 18, 19Ks. Any short-term dips below, I'm nervous as fuck for the midterm, but I'm not capitulating until I don't even know. I don't even want to sit here and say I'm going to buy at 20 and sell at 15, but I would certainly revisit my life choices at about 15. I'd be like, well, that kind of broke the model. There's huge levels down here. I remember when we first broke out of this, it felt like the kind of thing technically that needed to be retested. We never did that yet. And that's kind of where I'm seeing these people come up with these Y companies like A, B, C. And in a technical sense, that'd be perfect. It's different this time. Okay. But that's not my base case. I'm not going to bet on that. If it comes, I'll react. But I really like this as just like a huge weekly range for where Bitcoin is just going to cause max damage. Suck in the bulls, fuck the bears. Suck in the bears, fuck the bulls. Like washing machine cycles happen, this kind of range. And that was a similarly kind of rangy thing here. So yeah, that's it. So what to expect for October, November, December? Not a whole lot. Like I said, best case, a race back up to a lower high is my base case. If I'm wrong, I'll find out at about 32.5 and probably just ape my cash in, because at that point, I think we're just going much, much higher. So yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at right now. So what am I excited about? Well, I'm excited about getting positioned. I'm excited about finding the shiny new toys of next cycle, trying to identify the main characters. As I've talked about before on the stream, I am very much focused on self-improvement, like getting better sleep and working out and getting in better shape and just getting my axe sharpened. And also remembering what it felt like peak bull market last time, very exhausted. A lot of people were joking like, man, bring on the bear. I need a break. Like, I know how fucking grindy it gets during those cycles. So I'm trying to enjoy bits that I can through this, because it is depressing. Don't get me wrong. Woke up Monday, we're sliding into the lows. Where was it? Like here. And it felt, I was like, ugh, here we go. Market's so shit. It's going down again. Like, I get it, guys. Mentally, it is tough. So you got to persevere. You got to survive. You got to play the risk management game. And just remember that even if you trade this very well, the reward you're getting for the risk you took and the time you spent and the stress you managed is very peanuts compared to what that same amount of work, risk, and stress management would possibly yield in a much friendlier market. Let me say that again for those in the back. The risk reward, the output required, the input required to get a potentially strong output, that's a terrible ratio right now. You trade this like a champ, you're still, scraping by wins here and there, taking haircuts here and there. Like, it's not very exciting. So I'm not spending too much time doing that. Yep. And when the bull comes, you never have enough money invested anyways. That's it. I mean, I feel strapped, man. I feel strapped. I get it. Like I was just talking about that on my way into the office here, like with my wife. I feel like the cash I'm looking at right now, even though I have a decent cash position relative to portfolio, I'm like, oh, it's not enough. I want to buy more of a dip. I want to spend more on this dip. This is a generational dip. I am very confident in this sector as an investment space, and the dip that is coming, the dip that we're in, to me feels generational, the last best dip. And so I don't feel like I have enough to buy it, but I have way more than I had at the last start of the bear market. Not like way more, but like 30x. Like I started the last bear market with, the last bull market with 10K. So like, can I do some damage with a couple hundred? Yeah. And I just have to wrap my head around that fact and not get too bent out of shape about, what maybe I had last year or pre-FTX and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, a little bit of mental gymnastics going on right now, guys. If you're feeling it, give me a shout out in the chat. It's not an easy market right now. That doesn't mean there's nothing important we can be doing. It certainly doesn't mean we shouldn't be focusing and grinding and looking at this stuff. I had a really interesting call again today with a new blockchain project coming out, like a new L0, L1. Very excited for that. There's going to be some incredible things coming out in the next 2 years. And I say things because like I know of this one and I'm very excited about it, and I can already imagine the stories that we'll tell ourselves about it and why it's the next best thing. And I actually do think it has a good chance of being that. But I know it's not the only one. And I know the builders out there are grinding, a lot of them in stealth right now, waiting for the time to be right. And it's not just about like, oh, I'm going to launch in the bull because I want it to pump. It's like, I want it to launch in the bull because people are paying attention. And I don't want my good idea to fall on deaf ears. And so it's really, a lot of it is about engagement and timing. And I used to frown on that. I'd say like, if you got good tech, if you got a good thing, just put it out there when it's ready. The more and more I spend in this market, I realize like there is timing. Timing is important because attention and media focus, media spin right now is probably more of a negative news cycle. If I had worked my ass off on something and built it and it was something that I felt was going to help improve the world, I would want to launch it in a time when it's going to capture the right press, capture a lot of eyeballs, and thus translate into some users. And absolutely, price action does translate to users because people like shiny new things. People like to tell themselves the stories. They like to be involved in where the heat is. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of shit, and it's going to rain. It's one of these, like, when it rains, it pours. Like right now, there's a lot of projects that are just not launching because they're like, oh, the market conditions are shit. We can still build and work on things, growing the community. And so when that tipping point comes, whenever it is, from whatever price Bitcoin is, whatever, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be hot and heavy. There's going to be this new launch and that new launch, and this launch will come out and do 20x, and then everyone will speculate the next one. And that's where you get this new energy and bullishness. Not for 1 second buying that it's different this time, and we're just never going to see that again. I'm just accepting that 6 months is a long time. 3 months is a long time. And look, if I'm saying 6 months, we're not in a rip roaring bull market in 6 months. Very much, you got to remember how 2020 started. There was some heat in the market in 2020, but it wasn't that great. Let's go look at it. Just again, thinking back to how cycles build and begin, this was the main heat in the market. I mean, Bitcoin's a bit of a weird one because actually the altcoins, like, the real juice, the 2021, late 2021 shit, like that was more here. But as far as Bitcoin's party, the time where Bitcoin was cool, it wasn't until October 2020 that it got really sick, which would be the equivalent of like a year from now. That's when shit went bananas. And it basically went straight through until the next April, May, right? So if you want to be a fractal, if you want to be a Frankie fractal, then you got to think next year, just say it plays out very similarly, rhymes but does not repeat, then we would have some kind of fuck you event through now in April. The halvening comes and goes, and as you can see here, the halvening didn't do a whole lot for months. Bitcoin just chilled. This time it's different. The halvening doesn't matter anymore. Those were the narratives. That's what the hyperbole was. Then we rallied, and then we nuked the whole goddamn thing right back and barred it down. And that, as it turns out, ended up being the picture perfect SR purchase price that set up the launch pad for an entire bull cycle. And that wasn't, again, till next September, right? Septembers typically suck. I don't know why I'm so zoomed out. Probably because it's a high time frame chart, but Septembers typically suck. So a year from now, if we were 4 years ago, this is what happened. And then it was still like, fuck, what is that? Like September, this is a daily. So it was about a month of just boredom. And then the never look back. And at this point, after being on the ride we have been on through all of this, trust me, bro, all you're thinking through this is disbelief. And then we came into the previous all-time highs at 20K. Like these were nauseating dips as we, because of the mental state. You're in disbelief. That's how the next one starts. And so you look back at these things. It's very easy to look at them and say, I wish I was around down here because then, man, I'd be so rich. But it's actually a lot of mental gymnastics to get over that. But if you think in terms of how these cycles play out, because they're based on human behavior, they're based on human, emotion, greed, buy and sell, market dynamics, how many sellers left, how many holders, we're just not there yet. We're going to get there. So, yeah, a little bit of cycle talk here as we come through the latter part, which is arguably the most painful because you're the furthest away from when you had some flush cash if you were around the last cycle. So that depletion of capital, if you are, I think a lot of people made some good money through this year. I did, and I invested a lot. So I'm like feeling flat, actually down from my cash of the start of the year because I've been doing some investments this year. Some early stage stuff and whatever else, planting seeds. So my liquidity is actually lower than it was in January because of some spending and investing. But point is, most of us, it's just like, rates are up and things are tight. Life is tough. And even if you didn't make a big flush play last cycle, then even more so, like this is just a very disappointing market. So I guess my message overall would be, hold on, we're almost there. And things are going to probably end up being more beautiful than even your wildest dreams. But only if you manage risk and only if you play from a position of strength and you behave well in the market. There's going to be a lot of people who lose and fuck up and suck. And unfortunately, through every cycle of any kind, people just ruin their lives. It's like, I invested, remortgaged my house, invested my kids' savings. Like, just don't do any of that dumb shit, no matter how tempting it is. It's always dumb. Anyways, let's get to the chat. DTP. It took a 100-year pandemic, war with Russia, and threat of nuclear war to corn down to 15. What will it take this time, I wonder? Yeah. Like Binance going under would certainly be a mega hit. I got something to do with Tether. Like, I'm not a Tether footer. I think Tether's fucking rock solid and awesome. But could it be a systemic thing? GOX, Bitcoin being sold, I think relative to daily volume, it's not very much. But these are the stories. The SBF trial, like there's a lot of potential. Government selling the Bitcoin that they're holding. Like there's a lot of, don't underestimate the ability of price to just drive those narratives. People say, oh, it's because of this. It's like, or it's just because there's a lot more sellers in this market than there are potential buyers yet. I think from a technical perspective, everyone would agree that breaking down from this level, there's a bit of a vacuum. So it's not like, if we lose this level, it's lights out. But for all the reasons I already explained, I just don't think this market's cleaned up yet. I think it's been a very perfect washing machine cycle, up, down, up, whatever that's going to look like. It's, anyways, don't have to explain myself anymore. I've gone over it. All the more to give it back to the market. Yeah. What is your favorite Dino coin besides BTC and ETH? That's a good question. I'm going to call Solana a Dino coin, even though I don't think it's quite earned. You say Dino coin, I instantly think of Zcash. Or like Dash, my Dino coins, that 2017 class of 2017 dinos. But I think we're next cycle in now. Solana's been around for years. It's got a lot of overhang. If you look left and look for resistances, and you look at people who are probably underwater, holders, investors. Early investors still not underwater, but you know what I'm saying. So I think we're gonna say Solana is my favorite dino, and I would argue it's not even a dino coin, but technically, if we're talking previous cycle darling childs, they should be considered dinos. But yeah, you say dino, I think like Monero, Zcash, and Dash. That's where my head went, but they're not my favorites. It's a good question, though. From that class of 2017, what would be my favorite? I don't even look at those tokens anymore, which is really telling if you think about what bags we're holding these days. Cryptoholic, dude, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for sharing that. That fires me up. As a streamer in a bear market, sometimes you just look at things and you say, what's the point? There's nobody even watching. There's only 10 guys, 20, 40, whatever. I've never worried too much about that number, but I've always appreciated kind comments in the chat. So thanks, brother. RT is him. All right. Producer clarifying who I am. RT is him. AVAX never to all-time highs again. Thoughts? Yeah, I was talking about AVAX this morning. Big time bullish on generally what they're doing over there. I don't think they're going to die. I don't think the chain is going anywhere. And I see growth in things like subnets usage, adoption. The token is inflation-y looking. This is bear market stuff. It's just not catching the same bid as a lot of tokens. Certainly far from the Solana comparative if you just look purely at technicals. As far as, Solana made its base. It's done absolutely nothing since coming off the big breakdown, which is too bad because I don't know if you guys watched the stream. Don't hate me, but right here, I was crying about weekly W and I had the chart all spread out and I was like, hey, we're going off to new highs. So if you remember that, I feel your pain, dude. I bought a lot. I made a lot through this with Stargate. That was a Stargate launch, March 2022. And I rotated all those profits into things like Bitcoin, ETH, and AVAX on this breakup. And I ate shit and eventually cut them. Gave back about half of that Stargate gain, which was really painful in a bear market year. And I think the most painful part as a trader is that I'm just like, dude, the trade was too short. Like, this was a sick trade right here. You never get paid better than when you're on the right side of a short. It's like staircase up, elevator down, right? And it was across the board. You could have shorted anything in this market through this period. So that was a tougher pill to swallow for me. Not the end of the world. I don't expect to catch the big shorts. Therefore, I'm not as disappointed when I missed them. But yeah, AVAX. Hard to say if I ever see all-time highs again. I'll tell you what, it's going to find a base somewhere and it's going to build some W's and it's going to get sexy again for a period of time at some point, I'm sure. But it's going to not have shiny new toy status, that's for sure. And so that's why right now I'm working with, like the researchers at my fund. We're doing, as much of this kind of boots on the ground stuff, looking for innovative ideas. Crypto still doesn't have a killer app. Does it? If you think crypto has a killer app, or you would like to put forward, potential crypto killer apps that exist, and I'm talking about killer app, imagine outside looking in. For years now, you're hearing things like blockchain is going to change the world, and it's going to be able to do all these things, and it's decentralized money. I mean, look, there is remittance payments going through. There is transfer of value around the world at a fraction of a cost and no middleman, and those things are incredible. But there's still no app, and I'm putting the bar pretty high here, but things like a Facebook app or an Instagram app or I don't know, whatever app you want to pick, the application that changed the world that everyone uses, it doesn't exist yet that I can see. There's definitely some interesting, promising ones. But which one, who's going to build that? And who's going to build the chain infrastructure that can support that? These are the questions that I've been asking myself. I've got some interesting projects I want to talk to you guys about once we're a little further in their life cycle, well before there's a token. There's nothing we can do with them right now anyways. But there's one in particular I've been working with last few weeks that's super exciting. And that's the kind of shit where I randomly tweet out like, it's feeling good today. We're all going to make it. Like, just because I'm in the weeds with some of these teams, like they're building, I'm helping or advising, but like building really cool shit. Shit where like you're like each cycle. So last cycle, what do we have? Right? 2017, it was ICOs. Oh, things are going to be built on Ethereum. Nothing was built on Ethereum. There was like CryptoKitties and something else. Like there was really nothing built on it. And then we had 2020 is like DeFi summer. Oh, there's all these applications. And really like YAM protocol or YAM finance, whatever that one was, I think it ended up rugging, but it was like, from that was this world of DeFi, right? We had DeFi summer, and then it was like the Aves and your compound and all these mega Uniswaps, right? Uniswap was before that. But point is like, now we have this world of DeFi kind of, and then it was like, oh, this chain's even cheaper and you can still do DeFi. And look at all these showered incentives we're going to give you. Hot ball of money rolls into this chain or that chain. So what is the story for next cycle? What is the story for coming out of this bear? Because it's probably not going to be the same story. You don't pull yourself out of the ashes telling the same story you told last time. Speculation doesn't work that way. Ethereum came and made new highs. There's going to be exceptions to this idea that things can't go make new highs. I'm not saying that AVAX can't. It's just like all these projects, it's going to be heavy lift. I almost guarantee, but I'd be I wouldn't be surprised at all if it at least comes up and makes like a major technical retracement up to $60, much more even. And I'm super bullish on their ecosystem and growth potential, the tech. It's just not a new story. And so looking for what is the next cycle's new story. Is it a new chain, new infrastructure? Layer 0, I think, is still underrated. Whether or not they launch their ZRO token that's been sent to me as a scammer airdrop thing, 100,000 times. But multi-chain Tapioca DAO's coming out later this year. Lots of interest over there for like multi-chain money markets. So there's going to be some new stories. I think multi-chain's a good one. I think new blockchain architecture altogether is a good one. Internet of blockchain type stuff. Hint, hint. I think real world assets, further tokenization of real world assets over time. Interesting stuff. And then I think there's probably some shit I've never even thought about that's coming up. Solana is a big one. I think Solana is going to surprise a lot of people. It's not going to surprise the bulls. We out here, but I think it's going to surprise the haters. I think it's going to surprise the general public. And I think it's probably my favorite L1 bet coming out of this trough. Let's zoom in and see what my squiggly thinks. Let's check up on the squiggly. Yeah, kind of like once we broke down from here, I was like, okay, we're just going to do this whole reload zone thing. Whether or not we ride this trend line up and break through it as a final fuck you in January, I don't know. But this kind of thing is just how you build bases. It's how you get, and this, you hear this all the time, but this is how you get the asset into the hands of those who will not sell. You draw in weak hands, you flush them out. You draw in weak hands, you flush them out. You draw in weak hands, you flush them out. Until there's no more weak hands in. There's no more fly-by-night fanboys, and there's just people who, accumulators who just have it, entities, whoever, that are just holding on to this shit. And then there's nowhere to go but up because there's no major players or anyone selling, major crowds of people. So it's a story as old as time. It takes time. And I'd say we are halfway through it on some major altcoins and well over halfway through it on Bitcoin as far as highs to lows to sideways to ups. I'd say 80%. I want to say 80% of the way through the bear with Bitcoin, maybe a little more. And I'm excited at the prospect of being totally wrong on my timing. And then some October news comes out and there's an ETF and we just go and it's like, fuck your technicals RT. We're just going to run. I would love that. But betting on that is betting against history. And I just don't want to do that. It's hard with a short like that though, because we were still in the, it's actually over. Is this a pullback? Higher low didn't help. Yes. Meatfish. I know it was a massive, disgusting fake out that tricked a lot of technicals. I still, and it's like I said, a lot of that rotation I had was coming out of like a recent profit on STG, which ran 500-600% off at launch. So it still had reminiscence of the bull market. You guys ever seen these charts that are just like, whatever that one is? There's probably a name for it. It's this idea of like, it's like dropping a tennis ball and then it just bounces a little less each time. And then the idea that like things just trend to zero. So like, yeah, we were very much in this. So there was still a lot of that bull market energy kicking around, profits to be had, profits to be spent, invested, lost, right? And as you can see throughout a lot of these coins, there's just the bounces are less ferocious and we're just bottoming out. And so the question is, who will rise from the ashes? And I think shiny new toys are always interesting to me. I hate that as an investor. I like the idea that some of these things we're buying into can really just actually come and paradigm shift long term. Ethereum ended up being the main one from previous cycles. There will be more. But as with every previous cycle, I imagine the next one will be driven by new ideas, new innovations, new shiny toys. And if any of these ones from this past cycle are worth their salt, they'll be all right. They'll come up, they'll start cooking, they'll have staying power, and they'll trend back eventually. But nothing moves harder than a new shiny toy with no token overhang and no bag holders and all that fun stuff. I was in denial of that from 2017 to the 2021 cycle. Like, I was holding some old bags like, no, these are still so cool. Dead, all of them. So just be aware, cycle to cycle, flavors change. And that's why I started learning about trading, because I realized I don't want to just sit through things and then find out, because by the time they're declared dead, it's too late. So you just look at the technicals. You say, oh, big fat M top, bye. Big fat W, hello. What do you allocate to L1s like ETH and SOL, if you don't mind? Yeah, I have small bags of ETH and SOL because I am trying to be in a just had a stroke. Strokes are no jokes. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you exact numbers if you're interested. So let me see percentages. If it helps you guys at all to know how I'm positioned, I will share it. 59% cash. So I'm about 60% cash in my liquid portfolio. I have some investments. I have some stuff that's off this books. Like locked Hxro. My locked Hxro is locked for years. It's not in my portfolio tracker. So things like that don't count. But with what I can touch and look at day to day, 60% cash. I've got some DSO. I've got some NOLO, LP'd and staked. Still barely sold any of that. Haha, don't matter. I'm bullish on them. Ethereum, like 6%. And then I think I got a SOL bag down there, like 1-2%. Small. Again, super bullish on SOL coming through next year. But yeah, I was buying it up against this level and then it nuked and I got stopped out. So, I love the idea of DCAing. If somebody was to come on here and say, you know what, this is just the time through a cycle to buy a little bit of everything you love every month with whatever cash you have, percentage wise, and just fucking, yeah, cool. Investor light passive trader, that's a really, really sound strategy. And it's going to probably pay off pretty well over a period of years. No guarantees. No guarantees from management, but I'm a little more spicy. If I see this M-top breakdown, there's almost no amount of Solana I want to hold. I want to just get a better price. Or worst case, buy it back a couple pennies higher on a stop loss. Maybe I forget to buy it back and then we ended up rallying a bit, a couple percentages higher, I buy it back. But better chance I can fill in some bids through this. So yeah. So very little Solana at this moment. Yeah. There's times to be 100% in. There's times to be 100% out. I'll be honest. I would have taken on more cash if I could, but I'm not selling every little tiny bit of everything. Yeah, I've still got some blacksmith token. It's like a bot thing. House. I've still got some of my on-chain summered bags that are free positions. Blacksmith is not, but yeah, house, spell. I've been fucking with spell because I saw their new market maker agreement. I don't even know if it went through. I should probably check that. But yeah, they had a pretty nice little blast of volume with some new proposals from DWF market makers, basically saying we believe in this thing, and MIM has stood the test of time, and we want to be on chain and on DEX, or excuse me, CEX liquidity for you guys. So they've come along and put in a proposal for this. which has caught some hype. So not dead, not dead. So I picked up a little bag when I read that. Let's see if I can bang out a double. Yeah, let's see. Any thoughts on Caspa? New L1 going to the next bull market. It's one of the strongest performers during the bear. Interesting. Let's take a look. Caspa. Generally, I get, ooh, damn. Who has not been talking about Caspa? Wow. This guy's been like, what bear market? Be curious what some, what stats are. Just the link of this bear. Remember, Link basically just went up only last bear market. That's why it had all the Marines, and now they're all hurting, but Link might be an interesting buy here soon. I'm not going to buy it, but the chart looks all right. Let's see. Fully diluted 1.3 billion. Circulating. No. Market cap. Okay, just under a billion. So it's got an interesting amount of circulating versus max. I like that. So it's like 75% in circulation. Interesting, dude. I've never heard of this thing. I don't know how we got this far through this rally this year without it catching any real hype. That's interesting. It's like suspect. It's not on chain, so that's probably a good reason. Didn't help. But it is on Bybit. I've never seen it there when I traded there, but it might be new. Qcoin. I also don't scour like the deep end of the swimming pool on Bybit for all coins. Cool. Well, I'd be interested to learn what the hell's going on with Caspa, although I'll tell you, I'm not very excited about buying something up here in a land of underwater, like reload zone altcoins. This just isn't the one I would rush to from that reason, technically speaking, but sorry guys, take a quick pause. I will be back in 5. Got to run to the bathroom. Maybe 3. Let's do this. Wow. Hello. We're back. Thanks for hanging around, guys. If you did, now time for the secret sauce. Just kidding. Yeah, no hot mics. Thank God. Meat fish. All right, catching up on the chat. Pretty similar in terms of Sol ETH percentages. I'm about 5-1 RT's amount versus ETH for Sol. Yeah. Much less in cash than you. Yeah, I mean, as I typed that out, I realized I actually hold quite a bit more ETH than Solana right now, but both are insignificant. Which is an important piece of that. Like, it's not like this is my position in Solana that I want. This is me having basically cut my Solana position, but then held some. I think I was. Yeah, right here. I cut my position. I was more actively trading Solana because I was trying to get a more aggressive size. So after this, having missed that, unfortunately, sad because it hit a fucking sick level that would be on one of my charts. But I was just not in the zone at that moment. And so basically waited, chased it up, didn't touch it. And then when it came into these levels, I started bidding it up pretty aggressively, spot-wise, and then took a small hit, being wrong. And in ETH is just something I use so much. So I use Solana a bit, but it's such cheap fees that I don't actually need a lot of Solana to run that stuff. So whereas ETH, I find myself having to replenish my wallets every once in a while. That's not a great thing about ETH. But the other side of it is like it's in more demand because people are using it more and they need more of it to use it. But long term, that killer app we talked about, billion user app, it's not going to be built on Ethereum. It can't be, right? Ethereum crashes every time there's a friggin' mint, one project, high fees. So the bull that is coming, the bull that we're all here for, it will not be fully realized on Ethereum. It's going to have to be on some L2s. It's going to have to be on something like Solana, maybe on Kaspa. Never heard of this one. This is crazy. I can't believe this thing from July 2022. This is like the FTX dip. Crazy run, reload zone tag, new highs, pump chaser zone, new highs again. Now that we're talking about it, and it had very little volume on this last push to highs, and it's already had such a crazy year, and it's a bear market. This is like the last place I would go to park cash now. But it's been a sick trade, and it's the kind of coin that I'm like, okay, now I'd like to research it. I'm interested. And then can I get a reload zone sometime next year? Or do I just miss it forever? That's also possible, and that's okay. But I would not. RL Tibble says, do not go in there. That's what I told my wife. Dude, yeah. Oysters for lunch, actually. So what do you think of Libra Finance, LBR? Yeah, I was looking at that actually very recently. I am entirely dependent on Jedi for that one. He's the one who put it on my radar. I don't know a ton about it. I know he's bullish on it, and therefore I was excited about it. I feel like they did a new LP. This is not the original chart. And I asked him the other day, like, what the hell happened to the liquidity? Because the chart that I remember looking at was this one. Was it? No, wasn't this one. Anyways, the original LP with the full history on the chart, 18K. Yeah, maybe it was this one. I don't know. Point is, LBR had some nice runs earlier this year. Nice runs for what they are. And all that liquidity seems to have been moved over to a new pool. And today it's doing well. That's good to see. So yeah, chart history on this stinks. I wonder if I could get it up on something like this. Library credits? No. Oh, this looks totally different. What the hell's going on? Yeah, okay, so Libra had a V2. Why does this one look so different? So maybe it's a different one. So one of those, it's on chain, it's newer. Libra? Is that what we're talking about? No. So it is this one. I don't know. LBR is LSD stablecoin. Tell me you're an on-chain noob without telling me, RT. Yeah, I don't know. So I bought LBR at one point, got a free position in it because of Jedi's call in the pit. Very good call, thank you, sir. And then I sold that free position on its next little rally because I just thought this thing's cooked for a bit and I like this profit. I'm going to take it. But I would be looking to make a new position. Dude, library credits, yeah, me too. Back in 2017, I had a bag. Bittrex days, yep. I still get emails. Well, probably not anymore, but like as recently as like this summer, I was getting emails from Bittrex just being like, "You're gone, get out," and now they're toast. It's too bad. You know, to my knowledge, I hold on to this fact. Although, if I'm incorrect, correct me. They were never hacked. They're one of the few OG crypto exchanges that just had very good security. Never really had to deal with their customer support, so I can't comment on that. I feel like it was a little bit slow by email, but yeah, Bittrex was one of the good ones. So it's too bad that they got shit down by the SEC or shut down, shit on. Neo, XRP, OMG, LTC, ONT, go ape shit first, I'll puke. Yeah, I know. All my China coins that I was so bullish on earlier this year, purely on the legalization of Bitcoin and ETH in Hong Kong. I thought that was such a strong narrative, and I was pretty disappointed when it didn't take off. Yeah, like, if Neo's not doing too much by now, I know through the last bear market, they had a sick treasury, like they had like $350 million. So I just felt like, oh, they'll be all right. But if their base tech is just so left behind in the dust and doesn't innovate on anything and is completely isolated from all the existing liquidity solutions and whatever else, Ethereum and that, it's going to be a really steep hill to climb. And so I think that's important when you're talking about new L1, L0 type solutions. You just don't want to have anything that's going to be entirely siloed. Solana has suffered a bit from that in that it's Rust based. It's a challenging bridging situation that's being solved with things like Mayan Finance. I think Stargate's working on a bridge, like, that bridge eventually, and then it'll be more seamless. And you can even have probably some apps interacting between those chains once it Stargate's up. But for new things that are coming along, you want to see it plug into existing things, not necessarily an ETH-L2, but something that can very quickly, very easily, and ideally cheap and seamlessly bridge from those places. If you're getting a chain that is so out to left field, that's like maybe you're the smartest thing in the world. KDA, I got chilled on Kadena. I think this one sounds very cool from a pure design point of view. But if it's entirely siloed, built in a language that is built from the ground up for blockchain, which I think it is, which is exciting, it's going to be hard for it to get any kind of traction, at least, especially in this market. Now, if somebody comes along and says, we would just like blockchain, we don't really care about liquidity and on-chain stuff, we just need a blockchain to run the back end of this cool app, and that app becomes a killer app and it exists on this chain, it can have success. But I'm typically looking at things that complement and connect with the existing primary infrastructures like Ethereum, like Solana, like Cosmos, whatever, or at least can be widgeted together with those things for ease of transfer of liquidity. Otherwise, you're depending on centralized exchanges to be able to essentially, put stable coins onto those or Bitcoin, whatever, swap it out to this KDA, or I'm picking on KDA. I don't know the details of how you get money onto their chain, but then like withdrawing directly from exchanges. And so it kind of hampers its DeFi-ness, its on-chain world. Pendle is awesome. I agree. Pendle's been on my watch list for a while. Let's go see my watch list. Bags. This is out of date, by the way. I don't have all these bags. I did for a little while. AI, I'll tell you what's having a good day today. Is it still? Oh, it's only showing up 1%. No, look at this thing. So Hypercycle is one I've talked about on the stream before, coming in at a very high FDV. It's not your typical on-chain shitcoin, but it launched, and I think pre-sale at this point was up about 7x. And the fact that it held this floor, to me, spoke highly of the cap table, who invested in it. and the general hope and consensus of that, it never really dipped post-launch. I mean, a little bit, and then floored, had a nice rally, pretty picture-perfect reload zone, and now it's back off into price discovery. Again, 1.5 billion FDV. I think the scope of this project is incredibly huge. From my very high-level understanding, the founders talked about it being an actual potential meaningful use case for AI and blockchain. In many cases, a lot of these ones that are like AI on the blockchain are just not practical. This one, they claim to have solved it, and it's got a very interesting set of tools. I'm very excited about this one. Full disclosure, I am invested in that pre-sale sometime much earlier this year. But that's why I noticed it going up today, because I have a bag. So that one's doing well. There's always a bull somewhere. And then in that same wheelhouse, you have Singularity DAO. You have Singularity DAO. I still think Hypercycle is one to look into for the next time it does a reload zone dip. You know me. I'm never going to pull up the show, see something at new all-time highs and say, hey, go buy this. Or ever tell you to go buy something. But definitely one I'm bullish on, not racing to sell my position in that. Have sold some since the pre-sale, trying to recoup some initials, but just little bits. Mostly holding that one and rolling with it through the cycle. Now this one, SDAO, also in that wheelhouse. So you have this kind of family from the Singularity Net website. If you go onto there, they have a whole ecosystem of AI projects. Hypercycle is one of the newer ones. It's probably the highest capped one now at 1 point whatever billion it was. So interesting enough, that thing's a killer. So I'd like to see these start to pick up. I think once AGIX finds a low and starts to rally, these will be considered part of its sector and they'll run with it. For now, they're all just shaken out, finding lows, and they're all not going to win. But I bet they'll have a sector-wide rally at some point. I don't know anything about the two ones I just looked at, like Rejuve. But yeah, so this is kind of my little AI on-chain watch list. What was the one we were just talking about? Yeah, Quenta. Oh, Pendle. Yeah. Okay, so this is why I'm confused. Pendle, there it is. I have the Deck Screener app. iOS app is actually really cool. If you haven't ever used it and you're just sitting on your phone on Chrome or whatever browser, check out the Deck Screener app. It's very cool. But when you build your watch list on that app, it does not transfer to the computer because there's no sign-in. So that's why I'm like, can't find shit on my watch list, because the one on my phone is the one where I've got it up to date. But yeah, here's Pendle. Had a moment this year where I was like dying to get a bag, and then this happened and I didn't get a bag. I should probably be paying attention now as it drips back into some supports and reload zones. But I like the story here. Token metrics worth a crap. Does anyone use that? Supposedly AI driven. Not familiar with that one. Curious in the chat, guys, if you're aware of what token metrics is. RL Tibble's asking a question in the chat. Appreciate helping him out. Too late. Mortgage the house and aped net worth into Yam Finance. Oh dear. Yeah. No, Pendle looks good. I mean, this is the kind of project where I imagine it will just consolidate for a bit, and when things pick up, it'll just have its run. How's Frax doing? Saw a good friend of mine, Beamish, posting a Frax chart in the chats today, in the TRI chat. I could see why he would like it, because it's down off its 88.6 and just printed a little W here. So nobody's talking about Frax right now. Maybe something to pay attention to. And coming through its high time frame downtrend line. So we've moved through that trend line, kind of printed a W on the other side. Clearly didn't hold up. So glad I didn't race to buy it, but it looks pretty good today. It's interesting. We're seeing a lot of green candles today. I thought the market was shit. I was admittedly out at lunch. Looks like altcoins are taking a little market share back. Let's go check the DOM. Although we are looking at a lot of on-chain stuff that doesn't necessarily affect dominance. So dominance ticking up. ETH BTC. Look at this one. Interesting chart. EBTC is just doing this monstrous weekly wedge. Very interesting indeed. I think there's some levels below. Obviously, the fear narrative would be, Bitcoin ETF approved sometime in the next 6 months. And this thing gets like a full FU visit down to something like that, which would kind of be corresponding to a big rally in dominance, which, could take us up to any number of levels. This is a big basing pattern, and we've broken up from it. We've retested its breakout level. So a Bitcoin ETF approval where it's like hyper Bitcoinization kind of thing over a period of 2 years, there could be some really sick runs in dominance. And that would kind of be the inverse to this. And the craziest part is, and here's the best part, I guess, of that, if some kind of scenario like that were to play out, like that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see, because the best alt seasons, the ones where you can just make incredible life-changing money, they come after like big rallies in Bitcoin dominance. Like this. That was 2021. And in the build up to 2021, really this, and here was the 2017, right? This is where the life-changing money in my 6 years in crypto, the most money I ever made each time through the cycle, obviously, was that crazy mania blow off top, the end piece. Well, this was one of them. This is when I joined crypto. So that was there was a crazy alt season going on. But look at what happens in between. Right? Bear market, Bitcoin gaining dominance, altcoins kind of fueling up, finding their floor, and then alt season. So we're pretty far through this bear. And I would think. And so instead of having this through the bear, we actually just had this. So it's kind of like bullish nod for altcoins. Also keep in mind, they probably updated this formula to include a lot more altcoins. So there's some horizontal dilution going on. So it's not exactly apples to apples with previous cycles. And you also don't need Bitcoin like you did back here, right? You needed Bitcoin to trade altcoins, to buy altcoins. It was the on-ramp. It was the inroad. Now you have stable coins. Much more accessible, much more liquid, arguably way more liquid. So Bitcoin's use case, number one use case in my life anyways, just went out the door. You don't need it for that. So it's got a new use case coming though, and that is retirement pension fund ETF holders. So does that take it up and we chug higher over a period of whatever and then rug it as Ethereum goes crazy? And everyone remembers, here's the thing I want to talk about. Look at this. Everyone remembers, if there was no EIP 1559, the supply chain since that time would have been 4 million Ethereum added to circulation. Because there was EIP 1559, since that moment, there is a negative 289,000 Ethereum. So that's a swing of like 4.3, 4.2 million ETH. And price has still done nothing but go down. Imagine there wasn't an EIP 1559. Where would ETH be then? With 4.2 or 4.3 million more Ethereum in circulation. Doesn't mean there would have been sold, right? But presumably there would be much more supply and therefore more of a negative impact on price. This was EIP 1559, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's just crazy to me. I was thinking about it. I was like, we all anticipated a dip after, sure. But ultimately for that supply demand skew to just have a positive impact on price, I still think it will. But it's crazy to me that it hasn't very much at all yet, especially in like the direct correlation with Bitcoin or the direct comparison with Bitcoin. It's crazy to me. Anyways, and then I thought about it the other day. I was like, damn. Imagine we didn't have EIP 1599 and all this was still issued and POW, blah, blah, blah. So it's pretty crazy. We'll see how that turns out. I would say bull case is this resolves bullishly and goes fucking crazy. Don't know what that would be. Maybe that's the good news in October Novogratz was talking about. And doesn't mean it has to go to new highs, but if the ETH futures ETF gets approved, maybe that could be your reason to switch to like altcoins and ETH season for a little bit. And then, whatever that looks like. I don't know. Definitely some technical magnetism going on down here. And I think that only happens if we do get a crazy Bitcoin ETF post-approval run-up to start the next cycle. But maybe in the shorter term, there's something interesting about ETH before that happens. They do have an application in. I've heard about that. Instead of Bitcoin dominance includes stablecoin dominance. I've heard that, and that would be a good thing for me to update. I'm just holding on to my dusty boomer chart because I wrote this thing up back in like mid 2020, and I've just enjoyed watching it develop. But I probably should just start a new one, factoring in stablecoins. Do crypto people care who wins Trump-Biden matchup in late 24? I mean, I don't know. I find my crypto circle tends to be more fintech bro, finance bros, and they lean right in my experience. So probably guessing it's leaning Trump, but I don't know. As a Canadian, I don't have too many opinions on it other than that I think it would be embarrassing as a country, and I say that with love. I love the US. It would be embarrassing as a country to have another election between Trump and Biden. I'm just like, it blew my mind that those were the best two people for the job last time. It would blow my mind again if people circle back and still feel like, okay, guys, 330 million people, who should we pick to be our leader? These two, definitely. I know it's not that simple. It's a lot more convoluted, but yeah, I'm guessing crypto is generally pro-Trump if they have to choose. RFK sounds interesting, literally and figuratively. He liked the crypto, but he go a little bit deep down the conspiracy rabbit hole. I don't know that fly. We'll see about that. So, yeah, like assuming neither of them have a fucking stroke in the next year, they're over 70 years old. Get young, smart energy into the White House, please. My bros from the South, make it happen. I can't take this boomer doomer stuff anymore. I don't even think they're boomers. I think they're older than boomers. They're from like the silent generation or something. We can do better. You can do better. We can certainly do better up north too. Not a big Trudeau fan anymore. He ran 2 elections ago on legalizing weed, and I voted for him because I thought that's the first thing as a young person that spoke to me from a politician. And to his credit, he did legalize weed. But I don't think I'd vote for him again. Yeah. Meatfish says the only election either of them should be standing for is a residence committee for their local retirement home. Yep. Awkward. I did just see somebody put a bill in front of the House or Senate or something about term limits and Congress people and senators not trading and their spouses not trading. I thought that was a very nice common sense rule. Be very curious to see if it gets any action at all. Obviously, it's a little bit weird, right? Like imagine going into this free and open democratic society and then asking a bunch of people who are well beyond their term limit and best before date to vote in legislation that would essentially end their careers. I don't see it happening. I would hope that there's like some body that could look at that and be like, hey, that's biased. We should be voting, not you, like the Supreme Court. But I think it also had term limits on the Supreme Court or age limits. I don't know. Time's moving fast, dude. Technology, everything evolves fast. Things are moving fast. I just don't think you can have people being that old and staying that long. You need higher, stay long enough to be really good and experienced, but get out of the way. Here's the thing. The FAA, government body regulating air traffic, has a rule. You cannot fly a commercial jet airliner if you are over the age of like 65. But you can run the country. You can do the nukes. You can do all the stuff. I don't know. I feel like that's a reasonable cutoff for just about anything of extreme importance. Anyways, not to get political. yeah, on-chain elections someday, maybe 2030. That would be fun. Small country to start. And then eventually by demand, people are demanding it for bigger countries later. Getting deep off course, which is usually a good time to wrap up the stream, guys. We are getting into the hour and a half mark despite a little bathroom break. Bitcoin just chopping around. I would say I feel like we're going to just break down and then we go into that whole capitulation thing. But typically when I feel that way, we get our little rally window. So don't be shocked. I won't be shocked anyways if we kind of rally up here a little bit in October. I'm just not going to position for it. If I get a setup, I get a setup. But I am ultimately doing my very best to sit on my hands with the cash stash and be positioned for the bigger, funner, more cool party, which I expect to be sometime starting next year and really taking off the year after. Very unoriginal. But you know what? You don't have to reinvent the wheel with these 4-year cycles. And until you do, I'm just not going to. I'm going to just roll with it. In the meantime, I'll keep an eye on the radar. I'll keep an eye on the market. And I'll be sharing my thoughts on my Friend Tech and my Twitter. Doing some sports betting on the Friend Tech, which is small stakes for me, but just having fun, messing around. Until next time, thanks for coming today, guys. And whatever you do, we'll be back Thursday, possibly Friday. Pay attention to our Twitter. I'm trying to reel in old Rob Levy, see if we can get him here for a stream, and it might be more of a Friday thing. But stay tuned to the Twitter, and let's see if we can get him. Until then, whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Take care.